this video, we will continue to talk about rendering in Vantage, and we will continue to explore what are the main situations and what are the main techniques, parameters, tools that we can use in different scenarios. So we saw how we can create an exterior using actual ambientation and 3D models for also the background, like this castle right here, which is not a fake background, but it's an actual 3D model. And also we can use a simple image to simulate a background to create an exterior scenario. But we can also do that for an interior. So we can use the HDRI and image baselining systems and techniques to create studio setup, interior setup, exterior setup, just by adding a simple image on the background. Now that's not gonna have like the best quality, especially if you're talking about interiors and talking about lighting and shadows, but we can use that technique to have a quick rendering, to have a quick setup for like photography or industrial design, product design, and many other situations. You can see here you have like a yacht, you have car for automotive design, like for advertising, and so on. So sometimes it's better to create an entire scene using polygons. Sometimes it's better to use simple HDRI depending on what you need to do. You can also mix the different techniques together. So we're just gonna proceed and we're gonna add up to the techniques and the parameters and the tools that we learned so far. We're gonna proceed and continue to talk about rendering. So one thing I wanna do also is talk about optimization of the scene. So starting from the background, actually that's a really big mesh that it's in background there. So I think I want to get rid of that. But also in other situations, you can optimize a lot your scene by using simple techniques. And also we're gonna see how to switch from a day scene to a night scene. So switch from day-night situation. And we continue to use the models from Sketchfab here. I use this Lamborghini Terzo Millennio car automotive design, and it also has some emissive materials that we can check later on when we do a night scene. The emissive materials are gonna look great, they're gonna look beautiful, so you can use the materials that you download from the FBX file or GLTF. You can set up the emissive material from Blender as we saw before, and then we're gonna use this architecture right here. And this is the background that we are currently using, which is really complex, again, 3D model. So it's really expensive in terms of performance for your GPU. And you can see there the triangles, the vertices, that's gonna give you the measure of how big, how heavy is a particular asset for your scene, or just a single object, or an entire house, or an entire terrain or landscape. So be smart and try to not bring in too many heavy models, because that's gonna like weight your rendering down, weight your scene down. So try to think smart and only use what is gonna be visible in your project, in your rendering. So anything else will not be necessary. Will only be like some extra expensive thing that you might want to do or not. And especially also if you want to do real-time simulation. Now I'm trying to find a nice spot here to run an interactive simulation, a walkthrough in first-person view. And remember, we're gonna also talk about camera settings. So remember, you can set up the move speed and also the eye height. And this is some setting that you will find once you run the simulation. So some settings are about the simulation, others are for static rendering and animation. So you can see here I can move around, and as soon as I move I can find all like different errors and mistakes that I made. Perhaps some asset is too high, or some other asset is not correctly placed on the floor, like that car right there, but the rest looks fine. So I can test this. I will hold shift if I want to run a little bit more. You can see I can navigate my entire level. And the more polygons you will have, the more assets you will have, the slower will be to render. Remember that this is a real-time ray tracing rendering. It's not simple real-time rendering like video games. It's like a little bit more accurate in terms of global illumination. So it's gonna take a little bit of effort to render. So you will have a nicer look if you stay still on a particular point of view. Again, we can adjust the resolution, we can adjust the field of view to look a little bit wider when we walk around. So if you want to simulate the human eye, probably you want to have a larger, a wider angle when you use the camera. And so you can experiment, you can explore your scene. And this is gonna reveal a lot of like backstage problems. So you see that I only have the background on this point of view right here, but if I move around, the background isn't there anymore. So you need to have a really complex surrounding in 3D in order to not to see what's in the surroundings, and if there is like a backstage or some empty level. So you need to find out how to block the view. So with the collision, it will block the character. You can get up and down the stairs, but also you need to block the view. There is you always need to set something in order to block your view, not to see what's behind that. And also you can work with the field of view to have telescopic lenses and more wider lenses. So you can either work with the field of view, but if you click on these little buttons, you can expand. You have extra options for the resolution, for the field of view, and we're also going to see the depth of field later. So let's start with the resolution actually. So if I want to increase the resolution, that's going to increase the quality of your rendering, of your animation, and everything else. And you can also set up your custom resolution, but you can see there that if I change the value there, it's going to automatically affect the other value because these are right now locked to ratio. So if I want to do everything really customized, I need to unlock the resolution ratio, and then I can write here any value. So you can see here the ratio now is like 2:1. So I have 2 times the width and 1 time the height. And this is something that, again, I can customize. You can see it will affect the view inside the viewport there, and also the rendering and so on. So when I click to create a new camera based on this view, I can move back to the original one, and then I can go back to this one here that is like wider and a little bit more open in terms of field of view. Now let's get back to the field of view, and let's see here also we can change this and use the focal length, which is more realistic setting. You have a film gate. You need to address the film gate and the focal length at the top. So these two values are going to affect again the type of view that you have, more telescopic or more panoramic. So depending on what you want to do, probably if you are in an interior, you're going to use more panoramic views. If you are in an exterior, you probably want to make this thing a little bit more narrow so that you don't reveal what's in the surroundings. You can see here the surroundings are totally empty and they will look fake. So be careful on what you show and what you don't in the frame window. And you can work a lot with the camera settings to adjust this. But we will see also we have like other techniques like fog, like they do in the movies essentially. In TV series, they create fake scenarios, they block the view with fog or with other assets or anything that